Have you ever wondered how the brightest angel in all creation became the darkest enemy of God, the one we now call Satan? Before mankind took its first breath, before the mountains rose or the seas churned with waves, there was only God and His glory filling eternity. When God spoke creation into being, light shattered the endless void, and the universe bloomed at His command. Stars were born like sparks from His hand, galaxies spun in praise, and the heavens themselves thundered with angelic choirs. Among those choirs stood countless angels, mighty and radiant, each created with purpose, beauty and strength. But among all these heavenly beings, one stood apart, brighter than the rest, clothed in brilliance like no other. His name was Lucifer, which means light-bearer, the morning star whose splendor was like the dawn breaking across eternity. Scripture tells us he was adorned with every precious stone, his very being carved from glory and brilliance beyond human imagination. To the angels, he was unmatched in wisdom, power and beauty, and to the throne of God, he was trusted with great responsibility. Yet trust is fragile when pride begins to whisper, and pride found its way into Lucifer's heart like a hidden seed. One day, gazing upon his own magnificence, Lucifer whispered the question that would ignite rebellion. Why not me? If all creation bowed before God, if angels sang day and night to His glory, should they not bow before the morning star also? The thought seemed small at first, like a spark in dry grass, but sparks spread into fire, and pride spread into rebellion. Pride became hunger, hunger became jealousy, jealousy became defiance, until Lucifer could no longer bear to worship. Instead of singing before the throne, he began to gather whispers in the shadows, sowing doubt among the angels. His words dripped with deception. Are we not glorious? Why should we bow forever? Why should He alone be exalted? Slowly, multitudes listened. They admired His radiance, they trusted His voice, and they pledged allegiance to Him rather than to God. What began as pride turned into war. Lucifer, the morning star, crowned himself a king without a crown, and heaven trembled. Then the silence of eternity was shattered. For the first time in creation's history, rebellion rose against the Almighty. The heavens roared with the sound of wings clashing and voices screaming as angels turned against angels. Brothers who once worshipped side by side now collided in fury, and the songs of heaven twisted into cries of battle. This was no earthly conflict of steel and blood. This was the first war, a cosmic rebellion at the very gates of paradise. Light flashed like lightning, glory struck like fire, and the weight of countless angels shook the very foundations of heaven. At the center of this storm stood two leaders, Lucifer, risen in pride, and Michael the archangel, standing in obedience. Michael was the warrior of God, thunder in his voice, fire in his eyes, a sword forged by the breath of God in his hand. When the two met, heaven itself held its breath, light against light, beauty against obedience, pride against humility. The clash thundered across eternity, and every angel knew this was not just a fight for power, but for destiny itself. Lucifer fought with rage and brilliance, but Michael fought with the authority of the Almighty, and that power cannot be broken. With a cry that split eternity, Michael lifted his sword and struck down the morning star with devastating force. Lucifer's brilliance shattered, his wings were torn, his name stripped from heaven's songs, and his crown crumbled into nothing. He fell like lightning from the sky, cast out of heaven along with the legions who followed him into rebellion. The angels who chose his side were no longer angels at all. Their glory burned away, their forms twisted into darkness. Heaven called them demons, and Lucifer, once the morning star, became Satan, the adversary, the enemy of God and man. Silence returned to heaven, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of victory, scarred by grief. For a third of heaven's host had fallen, and the beauty that was meant for worship had been consumed by corruption. Yet Lucifer, now cast down, did not look upward in shame. His gaze turned downward, toward the new creation, toward mankind, for he saw in man something he hated most, the image of God, the very likeness of the one he despised. If he could not overthrow heaven, he would wage war on earth. against God's masterpiece, against humanity itself. That is why Scripture calls him the deceiver, the accuser, the roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. The war was not ended in heaven. It was merely moved here to earth, into every choice, every heart, every soul. Even now the shadows whisper. Even now the adversary prowls, turning hearts from light to darkness, from obedience to pride. Every decision we make, every path we choose, feeds one side or the other, the side of rebellion or the side of obedience. The true question of life is not whether you are part of this war, for you already are. The only question is, whose side are you on? For more interesting stories like this, hit that subscribe button and comment the story you want to hear next.